I love going to conferences. I love reading about digital transformation. I love reading about how you make businesses stronger, how you develop and prepare companies for the future. And when I read these articles, when I listen to the experts talking, I hear the same words over and over again. We should, we have to, we must. Of course, we must transform. We should do these things. We have to change our organizations. We need to look at how we change our culture to become more agile and flexible. However, what I rarely hear is, how do we do it? When you go to conferences or you read articles about the future and about how exciting opportunities there is and how you have to change to stay on top of your game, you get excited and motivated. And then what happens in most cases? You go back to the organization, to your teams, and tell the story, we must do this, let's do it, come on. And then you have a team and yourself looking and saying, yeah, but how do we approach it? Because when you look at the real world, things are moving very slow. The projects that you're working on, your digital transformation projects, are moving slower than you would want them to. And you need to understand why that is. You need to understand why it is that every time you start a project, time is outpacing the project. So when the project is ready, your business requirements, your requirements for the change have already changed many times. So the release of this project is celebrated with a lot of change requests instead of champagne. You need to understand why this is. If you understand why this is, you can start mitigating, you can start building an organization that actually can deliver of all the we should, we have to, we must, we need. That's what I'll be talking about today. I'll be explaining to you why is it's so difficult for us to speed up our digitalization, our digital transformation initiatives. And how do we counter it? Because one thing is painting the perfect world, saying these are the things we have to do in order to survive. But another thing is, how do we implement it? How do we actually get this done? I don't think I have to talk too much about how the pandemic has changed the world and how the technology advancements, they are also fueling a constant change, a constant increase of pace in the way our markets, customer needs, everything is changing. I forgot who said it, but I've heard that today is the slowest pace of change that we will ever experience. And I think it sets the scene very well for the discussion here, because when we're looking at it, we have to create a business, we have to create a company that is capable of moving with the fluctuations in the market. And you see, I even said it here, we have to, we must. But rest assured, I'll tell you how you can start creating a company that is actually capable of doing that. When you're looking at your digital transformation and your abilities to change and deliver transformation projects over time and at speed, there are 4 things that are really important to understand, because there are 4 main areas that are slowing your company down, that are slowing you down. These are technical debt. It is the us versus them siloization of the company. It is your organizational capabilities, and then it is the resources available to actually do the changes that you need. I hope that you are aware of the concept of technical debt, but let me just take a step back and explain it one more time. I've actually created another video about technical debt if you want to go into details. But let me just tell you here that technical debt is the debt that your company builds up in your legacy IT systems, in your IT systems, when your engineers are cutting corners to deliver on deadlines faster. Technical debt is not built because you have a series of engineers or developers who don't want to do their job properly, who don't want to do documentation of what you're doing properly. Technical debt is built when the management, the business units, are putting unreasonable deadlines on the developer, saying we needed this product yesterday, we need this change tomorrow, please go do it. And of course, the development organization, they want to comply, they want to help. So they need to cut corners. They need to do things faster than they would want to. And every time they do that, they build technical debt in the organization. They forget or they don't have time to document changes. They do changes that are not necessarily the right way of doing it, like a patchwork, but just to deliver on time. Problem is, next time you have to make a change. Now the development team has to go back and look at what they did before, create an impact analysis, because they're no longer certain where they did the changes and what impact the new changes will have. And that starts taking time. And now you're in a vicious cycle because it takes time doing the impact analysis. Well, the business gets impatient. They want the changes done faster. And again, the development team have to cut corners to deliver. This is a vicious circle. And one of the key reasons that development projects take a very long time. A direct consequence of this is the blame game. The business starts blaming IT for not delivering fast enough so they cannot reach their targets, and IT starts blaming the business for not understanding how to actually do development. It creates an us versus them environment. It creates silos. IT, they want to protect themselves, which is completely understandable. So they require more and more specification requirements. They require more and more sign-offs, more and more meetings, where the business has to explain specifically, what is it that they want? Write it down on paper and sign it. Then the developers start working. Then you have to sign off that this is right. Then you have to start testing that this is the right way, and so on and so on. It takes a very long time. And during this process, in most cases, you don't have one single person responsible for following the process, which also means there are a lot of handovers, which again takes time. This is another reason that your development projects take much longer than you would anticipate. Now, I've heard many times that the executives tell the IT organization, well, go ahead, hire more people. Just hire people, get it over with, get it done, hire people to fix the problems. That would be great if that was possible. But in many cases, it's not. It's simply not possible because of your technical debt. You have 2, 3, 4, 5 resources who knows where they cut the corners, who know about the technical debt, who know how to do the impact analysis. And even if you hired 500 more people, they wouldn't be able to do much because they would be depending on these key people. So they would still have to wait in line for the key people to free up their resources to help the developers. This is not a short-time solution. Maybe it makes sense to hire more people over a longer period, but it won't solve your problems here and now because you're depending on the key people. And the last thing that affects how fast you can deliver things is the way your organization works. It's the way that your procurement processes are working, your talent acquisition models are working. Typically, even if you want to hire the right talent, it'll take 3, 4, 5, 6 months to identify and get them hired. So is it all bad then? No. And that's why we're talking, of course. I wanted to present how can you mitigate this? How can you work with this to make your digital transformation a success faster? Now, I've been working with this for at least 15 years. So what you're going to hear now is proven. I know it works. It is fairly simple. And for many people, it seems like this is too little to start with, but it's not. We're thinking about 3 distinct areas, creating an environment of connectivity, focusing on what I call the power of one, and then cutting your projects into smaller bits and pieces. The environment of connectivity is about actually decoupling your IT systems, making sure that you spread out the functionality of your IT systems to smaller chunks and connect them with each other. Now, this makes sense because if you have one large monolithic IT system, you have to coordinate with so many people, so many different units just to make one change. You have to make sure that all the units agree to make the change, and you are depending on different parts of the IT organization to get the change done. If you start decoupling your system, if you start building layers of functionality, then all of a sudden you can have smaller IT teams working on specific areas with less need for coordination because decoupling has done. The magic lies in how you connect the systems to each other, allowing different teams to work on functionalities without having to speak with each other. That speeds up development time significantly. I'm sure many of you will recognize this as bimodal or multi-speed IT, where you're simply taking your legacy IT system and splits up in typically 3 layers, as systems of records, which is your transactional data, your financial data, which doesn't move very fast and requires a lot of planning in order to change. On top of this is where the business needs attention. This is where the business typically comes with many requirements. This is your business process management layer, your workflow systems, your business rules engines. They need changes. And when you do your digital transformation, which is all about process automation, process optimization, then you need access to change your processes, to automate your processes. This will be done in the middle layer, the layer of differentiation. You decouple that from your financial layer so you can allow the business to work with you faster on optimizing your rules, your work processes. On top of that layer, you have your systems of engagement, which is your websites, your apps, your connectivity to the world. This layer is even faster moving than the other layers, requiring changes maybe even on a daily basis. If you decouple that from the other systems, you can allow the business through low-code applications to do these changes themselves. This is not as complex as it sounds. In reality, you will isolate your existing legacy systems and add the decoupling, the connectivity layers on top of this, and then allow the business to start work with you faster in isolated functionality areas. This makes your whole development process speed up. When you're about to embark on your digital transformation journey, start with one project, just one project. And I know the management typically have a big vision about how do we have to do this and we have to transform the whole company. But it's simply not a viable solution. If you're starting to transform the whole company, it is the same as pulling the carpet away under the feet of everybody. They don't know how to land and where to land. Everybody will be confused. You will meet a lot of resistance. Start with one project that makes impact, that is easy to work with, where people are motivated to change, and then move on. This is what I call you have to go slow to go fast, because if you start here, the success of this project will spread like rings in the water. You will motivate people, you will engage the organization, and all of a sudden, the following projects in your digital transformation will speed up because now people understand what you're doing, they want to be part of the success. So start with one project. Do it sequentially, not parallelly. Maybe at some point when your organization is mature enough, you can have multiple projects in parallel, but start with one project. And when you work with your projects, make them short-term. Usually we are talking about IT projects of 1 to 3 years, but this is too long. You need to cut it down to 3 months, maybe 4 months maximum. Yes, again, it sounds like you will extend the overall length of a big project, which you will, but go slow to go fast. If you take a big project and shave it down to smaller deliverables, making sure that each deliverable provides value and benefits to the organization, then what happens? Maybe your 2-year project will take a total of 2.5 years to complete, but every 3-4 months, you will deliver something that is useful to the organization, which means that you will start to reap the benefits, add value of your digital transformation projects much, much faster. Again, you will show the success, people would want to be part of it, and you can prove that what you're doing in your digital transformation is actually working. So let's spend the last few minutes talking about how do you actually get people motivated to do this? How do you actually get started? I hope you have a feeling now that this is not as daunting a task as it was before. You have to, of course, spend some time isolating the core, working with the 2-speed or multi-speed IT. It's easy to cut down the list of projects and start with one, and it's fairly easy also to take the larger projects and split into smaller pieces. But you still need the most important thing to make all of this work, and this is people. You need people to work with you, to believe in you, to feel that this is the right thing to do. To do that, there are a lot of things that you have to make sure is in place. First of all, make sure that your transformation projects have a clear North Star. Make sure that everything you do is targeted towards a clear end goal. One example could be all processes, all transactions, all interactions with our company must be able to be completed in less than 5 minutes. That's a big ask, a big task. But if you have a vision like this, then every time you look at a project, every time you look at a transformation, You can look at it and say, how do we make sure that this process will never exceed the 5-minute maximum? This is our vision. And it works because people, they feel they have a purpose. They feel they have a clear guidance to work towards when they're working with the project. I would also suggest that you start out with, I guess you can call it the perfect team. Handpick the people from the organization who are most likely to be super excited about this, willing to join you, work hard on it, and understands what have to be done. When you work with this team, again, you will have a success faster. Hopefully, the team will come from different business units, so they will also spread the motivation back into their business units, enabling the whole organization to work with you faster. When you work with projects like this, performance management is key, but your incentives are even more important. Make sure your people are getting rewarded, paid for the successes. When you start your projects, set up the performance management. What are we expected to deliver by when? What are the costs? What are the benefits? And then take these tangible measurements and say, when we have delivered this, and that, this is a bonus that you will be paid for this project. It will unite people, it will focus people, and it will help your project become a success much, much faster. Now you've been listening to me, and thank you for some time, and maybe you'll be thinking, yeah, that's fine, but we're already very, very busy. So how do we add this to our busy schedule? Again, there are a few things that I would suggest that you think about. First, stop non-value adding projects. If you're an older organization, more old than 5, 6, 8 years, I'll guarantee you have a lot of projects in your backlog active that adds literally no value to the organization. Identify the projects, stop them, put them in a backlog, say we will look at it whenever, and free people's time to work on the projects that you have identified provides the most benefit to the company. Add these projects to the board agenda. So the board starts asking the CEO, the C-levels, how are we doing with these projects? How are the deliveries coming along? What are the benefits? This will give a fantastic focus in the organization. Don't focus on hiring new people. Focus on taking the skilled people you have and train them, reskill them to make sure that they have the abilities, the capabilities that you need. It is much faster and much more satisfying than hiring new talent. And at last, make sure whenever you have a success, celebrate it. Celebrate the hell out of it, and make sure the whole organization knows about it. It too creates a positive understanding and vibe of what you're doing. Very good luck. Thanks for listening, and go out there and get it done. Thank you, and bye-bye.